Last time, Odysseus was rowing toward a silent green island, with a single thread of smoke rising from a cave in its cliffs. He should have sailed on. He should have kept going. But Odysseus was a curious man, and curiosity, out here, gets men eaten. This is the story of the monster in the cave, and the mistake that would cost Odysseus everything. The island belonged to the Cyclopes, a race of giants, each with a single eye set in the middle of his forehead. They built no ships. They planted no fields. They made no laws. Every one of them lived alone, in his own dark cave, high in the hills, answering to no one. And they had no love at all for strangers. Odysseus took 12 of his best men and a skin of dark, powerful wine, and he climbed to the largest cave. Inside, it was a giant's larder, pens full of lambs and kids, baskets heavy with cheese, buckets of milk. His men begged him, "Grab what we can," they whispered, "and run to the ship." But Odysseus wanted to see the creature who lived here. He wanted to meet him. It was the worst decision of his life. At dusk, the ground began to shake. He came home, a giant tall as a tree, driving his flock before him. His name was Polyphemus, and when he was inside, he lifted a boulder, a stone so vast that 20 wagons could not have moved it, and he sealed the mouth of the cave shut. The Greeks were trapped in the dark with the thing that lived there. He lit his fire, and then he saw them. "Who are you?" he boomed. Odysseus spoke gently. "We are lost sailors," he said, "and we beg your kindness." The Cyclops did not answer. He simply reached out, snatched up 2 of the men, and dashed them against the floor. And then, while the others watched, frozen, he ate them, raw, bones and all. Then he lay down among his sheep and slept. Odysseus could have killed him in his sleep. He drew his sword and stood over the giant in the dark. But then he stopped, because only the Cyclops was strong enough to move that stone. Kill him, and they would all die sealed in this tomb. So he waited, and in the morning, the monster ate 2 more of his men for breakfast, drove out his flock, and rolled the great stone back across the door, trapping them again. But Odysseus was the cleverest man alive, and now he had a plan. In the cave lay a huge staff of olive wood, as long as a ship's mast. All day, the men sharpened one end to a wicked point and hardened it in the coals until it glowed. And they hid it. That evening, when the giant came home and ate 2 more men, Odysseus stepped forward and offered him a bowl of the strong, dark wine. The Cyclops had never tasted wine. He drank it down and demanded more and more until his head began to swim. Pleased, he asked the little man his name, and Odysseus smiled in the dark and told him, "My name," he said, "is Nobody. Everyone calls me Nobody." The giant laughed. "Then here is my gift to you, Nobody," he slurred. "I will eat you last of all." And then he toppled over, dead drunk. They heated the great steak until the tip was burning, and then all of them together, they lifted it and drove it deep into the giant's single eye. It hissed like hot iron and water. Polyphemus woke screaming, a scream that shook the mountain. The other Cyclopes came running to his cave in the dark. "Who is hurting you?" they shouted. "Who is killing you?" And from inside, the blinded giant roared back the answer. "Nobody. Nobody is killing me." So they shrugged and grumbled and went back to their beds. The trick had worked. But they were still trapped. So in the morning, when the blind giant rolled back the stone to let his flock out to graze, he sat in the doorway and felt the back of every single sheep as it passed, to make sure no man rode out on top. But Odysseus had lashed his men underneath the great rams, clinging to the wool of their bellies. And one by one, the giant's own sheep carried the Greeks out, into the light, and down to the sea. They should have slipped away in silence. But as the ship pulled from the shore, Odysseus could not help himself. He stood on the deck, and he shouted back, "If anyone asks who blinded you," he cried, "tell them it was Odysseus." And that was his great mistake, because now the monster had his name. Polyphemus tore the top off a mountain and hurled it, and it nearly swamped them. And then he lifted his ruined face to the sky, and he prayed to his father, the god of the sea, Poseidon. Let Odysseus never see his home, the Cyclops prayed. Or if he must, let him come home late and broken, having lost all his men, on a stranger's ship, to find nothing but grief. And the god of the sea heard his son. This is the curse that would hunt Odysseus across the world for 10 long years. All because he could not resist saying his own name. That is where we leave him tonight. Subscribe to the Dark Hearth and return to the fire.